Fight me. Now let's talk a little bit about some 2020 prospects that I know are on everybody's mind. Let's start with Justin Flowe. Justin Flowe is an inside linebacker, top linebacker recruit in the country, and an absolute bully. Like, to watch this guy go through the non-pad drills is to see a dude that just likes beating up on people. And I'm not necessarily sure that that's a good thing, because I look at him and I see I see Vontae Burfict's attitude, but in a good way. And I also see Jeremiah Trotter as a downhill tackler, because the guy knows how to split your offensive linemen, get through them, bust through them, and make plays in the backfield, right? I know Jeremiah Trotter's a bit of a reach for some of y'all, but just go back and look and you'll see the Axeman was that dude in the middle of the Eagles defense. But I really like his game. I just don't necessarily see how it fits at Oklahoma right now. Yeah, OU hasn't shown me that Justin Flowe is something that fits right away, because he's a Mike linebacker that thrives in a 4-3 kind of scheme. He's the kind of guy that you want just running between the guard and the guard. He can run sideline to sideline because he has that kind of ability. That's why he's a 5-star recruit. You know, he can cover, but that's not what he does. He's not a space linebacker. He's an enormous child who is a man-child who can destroy whom he may. And most of the time, that's anybody that gets in his way. This is one of those guys that gets invites as a junior to these opening finals, to these Rivals 5-Star Challenge. I mean, he's been pegged as one of the it dudes in the 2020 class. And when we're talking about 5 stars, remember that when we're not just talking about the best athlete at any position, we're talking about kids that you expect to leave early from college and go into the NFL in the first round. That's what 5-star status means. It means that recruiting services, 24/7, Rivals, what have you, ESPN, have pegged that kid as the kind coming out of that class that they expect to go in the first round as soon as he's eligible. That's why you only see between 25 and 34 of those guys in any given year, right? Because they're supposed to correspond to rounds and grades, and we can get into more of that, and that's a different sort of upload. But since nobody's really watching the channel in February, I might hold off on that, right? Point is, Justin Flowe is that dude. Now, whether or not he ends up Oklahoma, I think it's a very long shot at this point. He's from California. He likes USC like most kids that grew up in California. He's had eyes on him by everybody for a long time. He's a better fit for Georgia, Alabama, LSU, right? He's a better fit at places where they play 3 linebackers or a 3-4 scheme that is a 1-gap scheme. I guess that could be Oklahoma. But again, good defensive players want to go to good defenses. And that's kind of how I'm leading into this talk about Elias Ricks. It's really difficult for you to convince a guy like Elias Ricks, who to me is a Pat Peterson clone, that you should be at Oklahoma when Oklahoma ain't putting dudes on the podium for the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, and Oklahoma ain't putting defensive backs into the league in the first round or the second round. You know, that's not what Oklahoma's routinely doing. Oklahoma didn't have Greedy Williams last year. Didn't even have Nate Brooks, who was at UNT, right? And if you're Elias Ricks or Justin Flowe for that matter, you want to go to a defense where you know that that defense has an opportunity to be one of the best in the country, and you can get the kind of evals and draft evaluations that put you in the first round. And that only comes from being developed. And yeah, you got a new coordinator, so what Mike Stoops used to do is not necessarily on the table right now, but Alex Grinch has to develop what's here. He has to develop what's here right now, because that is how you're going to land kids in the 2020 class. You know, you don't get to sell them on what they could be in a couple of years. They want to see what you can do with lesser parts. It's one of the reasons why I keep telling people, y'all need to be on the Buki train, because you don't necessarily understand the kind of icon Buki is in California. That what he does here reverberates across the country because so many kids look up to him. It's not a small thing to just cast that kid aside. And the fact that he earned his 5-star status as short as he is cannot be undersold either, especially when you've been playing him out of position. So if you screw up Buki, and you kind of screwed up Caleb Kelly, can you really expect talented kids from the West Coast to look at Oklahoma and not think, I don't know, man, if they messed up Buki, if they messed up Caleb Kelly, what are they going to do to me? I mean, that's a valid question. That's not speaking out of school. That is a question that I would put to Lincoln Riley if I had a kid. It'd be like, I don't know, man. Show me which guys you're going to put in the league. Show me how you're going to develop my kid. Because we're talking about coaches that are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars if they're position coaches at big-time universities and millions of dollars if they're coordinators or head coaches who are going to get their money and they're going to have opportunities to get other jobs. I mean, look, Kerry Cooks more or less got pushed out of Oklahoma and ends up at Texas Tech. He's doing just fine. Whereas we're talking out loud right now about how much we don't like kids transferring who have to sit out a year. Nah, we need college football free agency for the same reasons that coaches should be able to coach where they want to coach. But that said, I think that turns up the heat and the pressure on defensive coordinators like Alex Grinch and coaches like Lincoln Riley to produce with the kids that they have. Because it's not so easy as, we'll recruit better next year. Nah, the time for that is over if you're Oklahoma's defense. Because we're not even talking about being great. We're talking about not being garbage. We're talking about not being trash. You know, we're talking about getting back toward the middle. And how if the defense was even in the middle, back-to-back national championships. And that should make everybody upset. So in trying to land a guy like Justin Flowe, and trying to land a guy like Elias Ricks, who is committed to LSU, by the way, you're going to have to show what you've done in 2019. Because, yeah, you got an in with Elias Ricks, goes to school with Darian Green-Warren. They're very close. They carpool together. They both were in the same defensive backfield as Jeremiah Cradell, who is a Sooner. So it's not as if you're not in competition for his last visit. Official visit, I should say. But the kid knows what the business is, and he knows what the math is. And if you're Elias Ricks, and you want to go into the NFL like every other kid who plays big-time college football, you're going to try to give yourself the best opportunity to do that. And to heck with your compete for a job mentality. No. Each one of these kids has a lottery ticket, and they're looking to cash it, and Elias Ricks is at the front of the line. In the meantime, court a guy like Keely Ringo, who might be thinking about Washington or Texas at this point. How much would it suck for Oklahoma to miss out on Keely Ringo? Oh, about as much as it sucked to miss out on Jacob Phillips. Well, maybe not that much, but I'm going to keep making that joke because there's a certain group of people who understand that one.